Welcome to a special episode of Everything FMB Podcast.
I love it. I love it. I have some questions for you because we have, I believe officially, tomorrow will be official, but we're going to be out of hurricane season, correct?
November 30th.
I'm not going to say it was a quiet season. I don't think it was a quiet season by any means for the west coast of Florida, but particularly for us, we got super lucky in a couple of different instances. So I'd like to get it from you. What has this storm season looked like from Fort Myers Beach perspective?
So basically we've been hit by 5 storms, counting Ian, since then. And, they weren't all direct hits, but there's parts of our area that got hit way harder with Milton storm surge than they did with Ian. You go out to Sanibel, you go out to Captiva, Matt Lachey. They got pretty much more surge in a lot of those areas than we did with Ian, mainly because of the wind direction. It was blowing directly in to the island of Captiva and Sanibel. And Ian kind of went up like this. Like it was kind of like a northeast kind of. It was coming out of the northeast. I don't know if that's right, but you get the drift. But the wind was coming head on, and it was also coming head on Fort Myers Beach at that point too when the wind switched. So we got quite a bit of surge on Fort Myers Beach, nowhere near Ian, but it's kind of scare a lot of people. There's a lot of people that I talk to. There's whole streets on Fort Myers Beach. I won't be surprised if 75% of some of these streets where you have more of the ground levels and the buildings that aren't up to code. A lot of those people are tired. They want to leave. They want to get off the island. Some of them want to get out of Florida altogether. Some just want to move inland. So I think going forward in 2025, it's going to be the tale of two markets. You're going to have the properties that are ground level, that are not up to code. They're just not going to sell, and there's going to be a lot of them coming on the market. So basically all those are now lot value, unfortunately. There are some things you can do with ground levels as far as going up on top of the current foundation and things like that. So there are some other options for those, but it's a tough time on all of our islands. It's a tough time on Fort Myers Beach. You had Helene and then Milton, like within 10 days, and a lot of those ground levels got flooded with Helene. Before the people could even come down and clean them up, they got flooded again by Milton. And Milton set us back a lot because of the sand that it took off the beach. It pushed a lot of sand into Estero Boulevard. But it also pushed some sand that was a little bit further out, closer in. So there's new sandbars and all this kind of stuff. I heard the beach renourishment lost about 15% of what they've already put out there. So I always say, the first line of defense is always the sand on the beach. I'm going out there to do another update video soon, but you can tell how much higher the sand is after the beach renourishment. It's another 4 feet up. So, that's your biggest line of defense right there. But man, we just need a break. You need a break to get the sand back out there, to get the sea oats and all the vegetation back. It doesn't just come back right away. We need a couple years off, I think.
Yeah. If Mother Nature is listening to this podcast right now, they'll take some notes. So when you look at the way that buyers are interacting with the market of Fort Myers Beach, it's going through a change. I think we're very aware of the change that's going on. As somebody that grew up in Fort Myers Beach, there's 2 sides that I can imagine. The emotional part of, man, this was a town that I grew up in. And then there's the side of a businessman. Hey, this is going to mean that even if these things happen, we're going to be stronger for it. We're going to be better because of it. We're going to build to code better. We're going to use the land for what I believe where it's going, which is more tourism, more big resort style, that aspect of it. I know you're split on both of these because you have your roots there, but also you understand business. Where do you sit?
It's tough. It's really tough out there. I go on listing appointments and pretty much almost cry in them sometimes. When I'm going from one to the other, I tear up a lot. It's sad to hear these stories and things like that, but I'm also realize that I can help people move forward and maybe they want to move inland, or maybe they just want to be done all together, or maybe they sell and they're going to rent from now on, because there's less risk with that. You're not worried about your property all summer. But, unfortunately, I do think the island's going to start trending a little bit more towards, obviously the new construction, but you're going to have a lot of investors building to rent and rent those properties out forever, basically, because they see the investment. And, I just think it's going to change the way people build. Even the newer construction, maybe the designs are a little bit different, where the stairs are, on the outside instead of the inside. And, that lower level has a little bit less stuff down there. I mean, you're not allowed to do anything down there legally, other than I got one builder that wants to do pickleball courts in that space, which I think is a great use of that space. Putting some pool tables or something like that out. But, the days of having stuff on your lower level are gone. I mean, unless you want to deal with this stuff every single time.
It's funny because I live 10 miles inland, and I have a house on stilts. So it was a complete, it was basically just a drive up, you know what I mean? It's just a house on stilts like normal, but we put a room down there, and then it's like my office. And every time a storm comes through, every time, like clockwork, I have to take my entire office and basically move it upstairs, because I'm we have floodgates in the room. That's how aware we are that if it ever gets bad enough, that room is going to flood. And I think it's just a perspective shift and expectations. Okay, if we have this house, let's make sure it's to code, number one, and let's make sure we don't overinvest in the downstairs.
Right.
Come on now. Let's use our brain a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're usually breakaway walls in the V zone or on the beachfront. They're breakaway walls for a reason. They had the floodgates for a reason. You can put your flood prevention things up and stuff like that, but that's only going to prevent a small surge. When you have an Ian surge, this is nothing. It's not going to happen, because the point of the breakaway walls, the point of the floodgates are to alleviate the pressure on the outside of the building. So once the water gets to a certain height, I mean, it's going to wreck your foundation. So that's the reason why the walls break away, because they want to save the integrity of the foundation of the rest of the home that's sitting on pilings. So, I mean, it's just going to change. A lot of things are changing down there, and they're going to continue to do so. And
let's talk about the positive. Let's talk about, because it's being somebody that's lives on this coast. It is a mental war every time a hurricane season comes about, because you have the part of you, the second you get that notification, the second you start to look at those trends, now all of a sudden you're on it. Pretty much, if it's going to go anywhere near Cuba, if it's going to go anywhere in the Gulf of Mexico, we're a smack dab beautiful landing zone for these hurricanes. I don't know why. I think we're just an attractive bunch of people, and the hurricanes know that. But I think it can get very dreary when we focus on I think it's about 5 months or so, a 5-month period of time, which is out of season anyways. But everything that you're talking about with Fort Myers Beach, I think will be better off for Fort Myers Beach. Why? Well, because if you have more high rises, let's say, you will have a higher occupancy or a higher population during season, which is going to move more money through the island, which means people are going to be buying more things. People are going to be getting coffee. People are going to go out to dinner. And the thing that I've seen, even the 5 years that I have lived here with Fort Myers Beach, is because of those single family homes that we're talking about. And they're pretty substantial throughout the entire island. You have a row of houses or a row of apartments and not high rises. I don't know what you would call them from a real estate term, but you have those houses there, but everything else is pretty much single family developments, at least from the eyes that what I see. With the transition, more people, more renters, more.
Well, I think there's, when people say more people, I think that's kind of false, because when you look at Red Coconut, and Fran Myers spoke about it at the last meeting, and they're going to their second reading, I think 2 Mondays from now or 1 Monday from now. But the thing that she had said was you guys don't understand the intensity and the density that was at Red Coconut. I mean, because she was saying you'd have all these trailers there. Seagate's only asking for 140 units. I don't know how many they had there before, I forget, but they're actually, when you really look at it, with that 17-story building, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it should probably be a little bit lower, but we need business and we need things to happen on the island too. But the intensity of that development, and they had nightly rentals, they had weekly rentals. I mean, Fran was even saying that, you'd have 30 people staying in a trailer. You'd have people in and out of there all the time. And now it's going to, 4 or 5 bedroom, 3,000 square foot condos right in that range. I'm sure they'll have all kinds of different floor plans and stuff. But, and the fact that they're not going to be renting those, I mean, that
short-term rentals or not?
Yeah, they're not going to allow short-term rentals there. It's going to be monthly and longer, and you're only allowed 3 per year. So investors are probably going to be buying these, but they're not buying them to rent them out. They're buying for the appreciation probably. But a lot of people don't realize that with the red coconut, how intense that development actually was, and the in and out. And, I used to go there as a kid in high school. All the time we'd go out there, my friend used to always get, his parents had a couple weeks out there, and then we'd go on the trailer, and there'd be like 10 or 12 high school kids staying in the trailer. And, not going to say we weren't causing any trouble around there, because we probably were, but I mean, that's what was there. And now it's completely changed. And, I hope they get the project through. I know there's some people that don't like the height, but, it doesn't necessarily mean every single project's going to get through and it's going to turn into Miami Beach with just one project.
Well, that's the other thing. I've been spending a lot of time in Miami recently, and this fear, this unrealized fear of people that overnight Fort Myers Beach is going to turn in Miami is a pretty far-fetched idea. If I'm looking at it like just transparently, Miami wasn't Miami in 2007 or 2005. We're talking 20 years of development to even get to a place where, and Miami had a huge infrastructure even at that time. I want what's best for the economy of Southwest Florida. And in my mind, the best thing for and this is a limited opinion, and I can be honest with that, but the best thing in my mind for the economy of Fort Myers Beach and for Southwest Florida as a whole is to increase tourism and increase bodies in Fort Myers Beach. It's a beautiful area. It's a fantastic vacation spot. I would love to know what it was like to live there, because I'd imagine that was really cool. But in terms of, people's fear, I think the fear is what's slowing us down. Because I mean, you told me a few months ago that it was going to take 5 years to get the frickin' pier done. It's like, where are we? And again, I'm talking out of pocket here, but it's like, where is the bureaucracy that allows that to be the situation when renderings can be? You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, I mean, we had that one viral video about nothing's happening. Still nothing's happened. I mean, we did that podcast over a year ago. Nothing's really been. You had Myerside, and now Seagate's almost maybe might get through. But I mean, a lot of people don't realize it can't turn into Miami Beach because there's not enough parcels that provide the ability to build a 17-story building on. And, you look at London Bay, they proposed that too. I'm not so sure they had the enough land to get that through. But Seagate's got a special project there with how big it is with the 10 acres and then the surrounding parcels that they're probably going to close on pretty soon, that we've heard through the rumor mill. But, there's not the same amount of parcels there. And I think the other thing to think about on the beach too is you look at Gulfside 12 and it's only 12 units. You had the carousel in there, had 60 or 70 units, something like that, maybe more. But now it's down to 12. So you just lost a bunch of density. Red coconut, you're losing density that used to be there. And then, and the next thing is too, I mean, you drive up and down the beach, you see these condo buildings. It's 2 years later, or 25, 26 months after the storm. One of them just got the trusses on the roof. They haven't even done anything on the inside of the units.
What is slowing things down?
I mean, you got all these milestone inspections now. You've got all this HOA stuff that the government passed now that, they need to be fully funded, and they got all these special assessments going, and,
So regulatory is...
Oh, yeah. I mean, looking at some of these developments, you're just looking at them and you're like, okay, well, you guys are fixing this place up just for every single person to put it on the market. And there's not going to be any buyers because nobody wants to buy old stuff because of all this stuff that's going on. They're going to go to new construction like Gulfside 12, which is the only show in town on the beachfront for the next 3 years.
No way.
Nothing else has been approved. Even if, say, Seagate gets approved, they got 12 months of design. then they got to start trying to sell their product and pre-sell it a little bit. So, I mean, who knows when they actually break ground? I mean, but you're talking 2028 to 2030 as far as when it's going to be done.
That's nuts. That seems so because here's the thing, regardless of the position, regardless of anything when it comes to that in my mind is overregulation. Now, granted, you have to put things up to code. I agree. But I think personally, total opinion, I haven't talked to you about it. This is my personal opinion, that I think there's a lot of bureaucracy that is going on where you have two competing forces, the people that want to develop and the people that don't want to develop. And when you have that, you just have a standstill that gets nothing done.
Right. And I had someone come up to me at my open house the other day and they were like, well, you know, I was here in March and this place looks 10 times worse than it did last March. And I'm like, I don't see that because I'm there every day and I see the progress. But for someone that hasn't been there for that long and then they come back and they, you know, they still see a lot of the fences down after Milton, it's like, you know, they're getting discouraged. But, you know, going back to all that stuff, I mean, Fort Myers Beach is a four-legged stool. Everyone says that. It was on our podcast with Jackie too. But it's a four-legged stool. So you've got the residents, you've got the business owners, you've got the tourists, and you got the government. And if one of those falters, you don't have a stool. You're falling over.
Right now, what do you think is faltering?
We have no tourism. There is tourism coming, but
why do you
nowhere
think that
near
is? Do you think that has to do with government?
I mean, it's just, we also need to have some grace and realize we got hit by, you know, the big one. And it's going to take more than 2 years to recover from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a 5 to 7 to 10 to 12 year recovery. I mean, you're going to see signs of this storm of Hurricane Ian on Fort Myers Beach 15 years from now. You're still going to see signs of the storm, I believe.
That's nuts.
As far as maybe abandoned homes or things like that, or things that are just still sitting there. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I hope it gets cleaned up faster, but you know, it's tough.
How can we the people enact change?
I mean, you got to get out there and let your voice get heard. If you don't like Seagate's development or you like it, get out to the town council meeting and talk. You know, I'm not a resident right now, so I don't feel like I should get out there and have an opinion yet.
But you know what's best for the area.
I know what's best for the area. In my opinion, I mean, we need to spur things a little bit. I'm not saying 17-story buildings.
We need to stimulate growth.
But we need Times Square to have an idea about what's going to happen there. We have no clue. It's been 2 years. There's no plan together. You got 8 different owners there. They can't agree on everything. I think a couple of them are going to start just doing their own thing because they can't get people together. But I mean, Times Square is like the center of town. I mean,
that's where I came when I got to you.
Right now it's Margaritaville. Margaritaville's the only show in town. Yeah, you got Wahoo Willie's, you got a couple food trucks, and you got La Ola there. Hopefully they can stay because, you know, FEMA's trying to get all the trailers off by November 19th after hurricane season, which makes absolutely no sense. But, you know, it's just what we got to deal with down there.
Yeah, what I care to understand, we have to get our voice out there, but we have to is it the business owners that need to start raising hell? Is it, you know, the residents that need to start raising hell? Because if we do not stimulate tourism, you're right. In 15 years, that place will look the exact same. And it's not going to be attractive to buyers. It's not, you know what I mean? Like I love Florida for the reason of there's probably hundreds of beach towns. And they all have their personality. They all have this feeling that you just get when you go there, and each of them are different. And the thing that Fort Myers Beach was when I got to Fort Myers, when I first got to Fort Myers from college, Fort Myers Beach was the first place I took a person to go on a date. Like it was literally like I went to what is it? Doc Fort's under the bridge.
One of the best restaurants in town by far.
100%. And then we went to Times Square right after that. And we sat and we watched the sun go down. And I remember those days, the beach was packed and it was just bustling and it was so cool. And again, you can't change a storm. You can't. But I think a lot of this isn't storm related. This is bureaucracy that is very, very, very much slowed down the progress. And nothing should take 6 years to how long did you say it was going to take for them to get the design?
It's going to take them 12 months from approval to get a design together and then start construction from there. So, I mean, that's the thing with the pier too. I mean, and when you're using government money, sometimes you're tied by their speed. And if they're going really slow, you got to go slow with them.
This is very quickly going to deteriorate into a very political podcast, and I'm going to refrain, although I would love to. But
I mean, the thing with the beach though is the people are still going to come regardless. Yeah. I think you might start losing some people eventually, but the business owners want to stay, but they also have to make money. And if they can't make money, they can't just go into their own pocket. And the point of a business is to at least break even and make some money. And if you can't do that, then you're going to start losing people. And I think new people will come. But, I think the bright spot is though too. I mean, Santini Plaza, we were really worried about that with Milton. They did take a little water on with Milton, but they're starting to open some stuff up. You got the surf shop coming up. You got a liquor store coming up soon. You got a Italian restaurant. Anita Saracita, the ex-mayor, her store, she got all of her stuff out of the store before Milton, just loaded up in U-Hauls and then brought it all back after the storm. Didn't lose any inventory and was open, I think, within a week of
That's
that.
awesome.
So, I mean, that's the thing that people are thinking about now. Is it worth it to get all my stuff out of the store? Yeah, get it out, get it off the island, bring it back. It's a lot of work and it's probably cost money, but you saved all your inventory and you're able to open up faster.
Yeah.
They got the farmers market going down in Santini now too. So, there are some good, positive, bright spots going on the island.
What can we expect this season ahead?
I think it's going to be a great season. I think you're going to have a lot of people coming down here. I mean, we also got to realize too, like a little further north of us got hit pretty hard. I know some of those places are back open. The places that were built to code are back up pretty fast, but the whole West Coast is, from Tampa south is a little beat up right now. We're still in recovery from Hurricane Ian, but, I think when it gets cold up north, where are people going to go?
No, right.
You got a couple of choices. It's Arizona or Florida, and Arizona does get cold too, but they don't have the beaches. They don't have the same weather we have. I mean, it's the price we pay, for hurricane season. It's the price of paradise is you deal with that for those 5 months. And then the rest of the year is sunny and 80 degrees. We're starting to get a couple cold fronts through, so it's starting to drop, but
bring those cold fronts. I need a beach day on Fort Myers Beach. I need 75, sunny with a nice breeze coming off the ocean. That's what I need.
Well, I think too, is people spreading the word about it too. If you've been to Fort Myers Beach, talk about it. I was on Fort Myers Beach. I had an awesome time. We rode jet skis. We did this, we did that. Yeah, there's some rubble in the background, but it's still the same sunset. It's still the same beach. It has changed a little bit by the storm, but the sand changes a little bit every storm that comes through, but
gonna recognize that.
But it's still Fort Myers Beach. It's still a beautiful place. It's still got enough business going on. I mean, you got the Whale will be open in 2026. They're building that place right now. So a lot of positive stuff going on the island. We all want it done faster, but it kind of is what it is. You got to kind of work with the bureaucracy, work with all these different things, and I think the town's been pretty good about it. I think the town's handled everything very well. I mean,
so you're pro how the chamber and everybody has handled things?
I think everyone's done a great job out there, especially the town council. You can say what you want about them, but they've got mayors from up north calling them, not like north of us, calling them, hey, what do you guys do with these storms? How do you do it? You've been hit 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Like, what? You guys got this process figured out. Like, help us. And that's the great part about, our area and Florida in general is people want to help each other and stuff like that.
It's interesting too, because again, like we were saying earlier about these beach towns in Florida, I think Fort Myers Beach to me will always be special. And some of my most wild adventures in college happened at Lanikai. But on the flip side, I love Lanikai for what it represented in college for me. But thinking about how it's developing now, I think they want to get away from that.
Yeah.
I think they want to boss up a little bit in terms of, okay, we want traffic, but I don't think we want this traffic necessarily to the level that I remember it being when pre 2022 and all that.
Well, I mean, you haven't seen anything because when I grew up there, I mean, where Margaritaville is now, it was a shopping center, rat-infested shopping center. Like, my parents didn't want me going past Bay Oaks because it was dangerous. There's bad people. There was a lot of bad things going on that island, the homeless people, drugs, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was not, I mean, it was not a high-end beach town back then. I mean, there was some good stuff going on, but I mean, it was not what it was today. And going forward too, I mean, the thing that people got to think about too is like the cost of construction is so high right now that they need these extra, they don't need, the world, but they need a few extra units to be able to pay for the construction nowadays. And they got to go up a certain height. Like Times Square has to be like 20 feet in the air. So, I mean, you're battling with FEMA and you're battling with the people and stuff like that. A lot of people don't understand the code. A lot of people have never read the comp plan. They just say, oh, it's 3 over flood. It's not just 3 over flood. Read the comp plan. Everyone is in the right to ask for what they're asking for. Doesn't mean they're going to get it, but
walk me through that approval process. Let's say I want to build the next best pickleball arena in Fort Myers Beach. What do I have to go through to even get that project started?
I don't even know if there's any parcels big enough to support that. You got Bay Oaks. Bay Oaks put some pickleball courts out. Some of the condo associations have them, but there's just not. I mean, it's a small island. It's not a very wide island. It's not Sanibel. Sanibel's got a lot of land, and most of that's conserved land and protected land. But Fort Myers Beach is not. I mean, look at Bayview. I can see the Gulf and the bay from my driveway. That's how most streets are. There's wider parts of the island, but it's a very narrow island. So there's not a lot of room for these big developments. There's not a lot of room for a pickleball arena or anything like that. Maybe Bay Oaks decides to do that with the other baseball field where all the debris is at again. But, it's not a big landmass. So.
Do you think that, what do you think they could put in, like, dream with me for a second? What do you think they can put in to Fort Myers Beach that can stimulate all the things that we want to? More tourism, more permanent full-time residents, more money for the government, and more money for small business.
I mean, I think the Arches project at Moss Marine,
What is that?
they've proposed some plans. They've actually come down on their height now and their density a little bit more, but they want to put a couple hotels there by downtown off of Old San Carlos. And I think it ties everything together very well. It creates a little bit of a bay walk too that people can kind of walk, and it kind of just activates that area a lot more. And then Times Square. I mean, Times Square, like we said, is the center of town, and we need that to be redeveloped the right way. Because that's
what does it mean to be redeveloped the right way?
Meaning they got to get it to code, and they've got to have the right mix of businesses and restaurants and things like that, which I've seen a lot of the proposals, and I like what I see there. I just think those two projects are very important. Those are the two most important projects, I think, on the island, is getting something through there. I'm not saying that what they propose is 100% going to happen, but those two projects are very important to the economy there. I think they're the most important projects to the economy. Is just getting something through there that's everybody, the majority of people want. You're always going to have people that don't want any development, and you're always going to have people that want every single thing to get approved. But I'm kind of in the middle. It needs to be the right project with the right public benefit and things like that. But I just think those are two very important pieces. And then, the South End only has Santini Plaza right now, and they're very flood prone. So, like London Bay proposed some things with a little market and stuff in their little development or their big development. But that's important stuff. I mean, I love their concept as far as what they're going to provide. And, you can buy wine and have a little market there. You don't have to go all the way to Publix, even though Publix isn't that far. But there's just nothing really on the South End outside of Santini, nor is there really a big parcel to really put a lot of commercial in. So I think this kind of the multi-use type of stuff, I think, is very important too, where it's, as far as like Myerside Resort got approved, and, it's not a huge building, but they got a lot more density. But they're also going to have a place of business there. They're going to have a restaurant, that kind of stuff, which is important because you can't have everybody just going to the North End. The North End is where everything's at right now. And luckily Santini's bringing some people and bringing things to do on the South End. But, every little node on the island, the North End, the mid island, and South End, like they all got to have their own little things going on there to, and then that way people kind of stay more in one spot instead of, oh, if I want to go out, I have to go to the North End. There's no other option. I have to go there. and that creates a lot more traffic. Whereas, you know, if you could just walk out of your condo and walk down a mile or walk down a few blocks and you're at an awesome restaurant, you know, it prevents people moving around the island a little bit more.
Yeah. I think walkability is a huge.
Yeah, walkability is huge. And I think, you know, even with some of this height that we're seeing, I mean, they're able to give a little bit more, you know, view corridor, parks, things like that. I'd rather have a park than have someone build three over flood on all
Give
over
me like a
Coconut.
Celebration Park. Like, give me something like that.
I mean, we need that kind of stuff.
Really
you know, Newton Park, you know, we'll get somewhere too, and then you have the Strand View torn down right next to it. The town, I heard, is possibly maybe trying to buy that, which, you know, if they have the money for it, I think they should do it. I don't know if they do, but, you know, I think that would be a really good spot for the Mid-Island. You're right by Publix, and to have that more of like a park area where people can park and enjoy the beach and have picnic tables and restrooms and things like that. I think that's huge for the South End and huge for Mid-Island because, like I said, I mean, there's a reason why people are kind of moving on the South End or the Mid-Island because maybe they don't like the hustle and bustle on the North End. So, you know, that's the cool part about the island is you kind of have little quieter sections. You've got the hustle and bustle downtown. Party City during spring break is downtown. But then you have Mid-Island and South End that, you know, it's not like that. It's not a bunch of college kids down there. It's just people coming down with their families, enjoying the beach and getting the heck out of the cold.
So compared to 2021, what do you think this season will look like percentage wise?
It's going to be better. I mean, I heard bookings were way up, but then we had 2 hurricanes. So I don't know if we may have lost some of those rentals. But I think you will see more people coming down this year. It's a longer season. I think you're going to see sales activate a lot more this year. Because a lot of people say, I mean, 2022 is kind of a fluke year. You know, there's a lot of big sales out there, a lot of high value sales. Not a ton of them, but some of the stuff that sold was like, people are scratching their head. Like, how did it go up after the storm? Well, you know, there was a little bit of scarcity there after the storm. And then now you get hit by a couple more and now everybody wants to sell. So it's going to be an interesting market. And like I keep saying, the new construction is holding its value. I mean, the data supports it and it's appreciating. You know, the stuff that's not up to code it's not going to appreciate when you get a bunch of stuff flooding the market.
On a percentage level, what do you think is the new construction versus old stuff at this point on the island?
I mean, I forget what the data was telling me, but the price per square foot of new construction is staying where it's at or going up.
No, I'm saying how much is new construction versus old?
There's not as much new construction yet. We kind of need that kind of stuff to start selling. People start tearing stuff down and building back up new.
What's stopping the sales on the dilapidated properties?
Price.
Really?
They want too much. They want the
old.
They want the same number as what they were getting for a house that didn't flood. You know, you see some of these houses on $1 million and it's like, guys, the lot next door just sold for $625. Why is someone going to pay $1 million for a flooded house?
Or dilapidated.
Actually, the ground level should almost be lower than lot value because you got to spend, you know, $20,000 to tear it down. So, I mean, unless you're going to build up on top of it, which if you're doing a resale or you're doing a spec home and you're building on top of an old foundation, I don't think you're going to get that full new construction number. But if you're, you know, a cheaper option instead of building new construction for people that want to stay on the island is, you know, you block it up a little bit more and you go up on top of the old foundation. And, you know, you probably got to put a few more pilings in too, but depending on the property. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation for those properties. And a lot of people are starting to make the business decisions that they don't want to hold on to them anymore. They want to get rid of them. And then once some of the dominoes start falling and then, you know, you start, like I said, you see a lot sold for $6 or $625 and then you got a house for sale for $950 and that's a teardown. It's like, what is the thinking there? I mean, I don't know.
How do you coach the stupid out of those people?
Well, I think they're starting to realize it now. I think the people that follow real estate and stuff like that, they see all these active listings and they see that none of them are selling. They see pricing all over the damn place. I mean, it's literally all over the place. It doesn't make any sense to a lot of people.
There's no rhyme or reason.
There's no rhyme or reason to it. But I think now people are being more serious with their prices. We've seen a ton of price drops. We've seen stuff going on a little bit more realistic prices now. And I think that's what people have been waiting for, not just the investors. I mean, people that want to make the place home. Like, I want to move out there. I can't afford to pay $800,000 for a house that's not up to code and then get it up to code. And then, I don't got that kind of money yet. And that's the thing. I mean, it's tough to raise a family out there. It's tough to bring a family out there and try to raise a family out there. And I say I'm probably one of the last generations to really grow up out there. And yeah, there's still kids out there. You see them, but it's nowhere near what we used to have.
Well, I think, but this is also the part of it. Like, you look at Miami, right? Miami, one of the number one things Miami doesn't have is school systems. They don't have a place where people can kind of raise a family. It's not that type of area.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be the case, but Fort Myers Beach is probably going to become the same thing.
Yeah, it's going to become a vacation rental.
The growth of Southwest Florida in general, there's plenty of real estate. Like, really, truly, like, we're growing even more eastward. Like, there's beautiful Babcock Ranch is one of my favorite places in Florida right now in terms of if I wanted to raise a family. So I think from that perspective, everybody would love to live on Fort Myers Beach, but there's no way that if a normal family of three can afford $1 million
house barrier and then insurance
$1 house, and then to get to work,
right?
I got to drive an hour and 10 minutes because of traffic, because of, like, if some places are just built for certain things.
Yeah, I mean, unless you work on the island and stuff like that. But I mean, business is tough out there right now. So,
and where's the economy? Like, where is the economy of the island to be able, because I saw this post the other day of this guy who was talking about, it was in the heat of season, or the heat of non-season in Naples. And he's like, in Naples, we're watching businesses, mom and pops, that are just going out of business. Why? Because corporations like Twin Peaks, for example, came and built a Twin Peaks in Naples. And so what that did was, didn't help Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks isn't crushing it in Naples right now, but what they did do is they pulled all the people that were going to mom and pops to them. And when you go out of season in places like Naples, like Fort Myers Beach, like this type of thing, from a business owner's perspective, your total addressable market is not enough to even keep the doors open. And that's your total addressable market, not even your customer base.
I mean, they rely on people in town coming out there during the summertime, but a lot of those people are just bringing their coolers full of beer and stuff, and they're not really buying stuff at the places because they're just bringing their own. Because, I mean, times are tough right now out there with the economy. A lot of people can't afford to stay at Margaritaville or, spend $500 just to go to the beach. Our Northerners come down and spend that money. But during the summertime, it's a ghost town down there. I mean, how do you survive?
Margaritaville still is during the summer?
Yeah, I mean, they do all these specials and stuff during the summer and, things like that. But that's our dead period. Nobody wants to be here in August and September. It's, it's warm up north. It's almost just as hot in some places. And, I know my buddy Mace likes to come down here during the summer because there's less traffic and he's, can do whatever he wants. But, it's hot. It's still hot. It's hurricane season and that kind of stuff. So.
Well, that's a part of like a Fort Myers Beach that I think they need as well, as they need indoor activities as well. I think that you need to create, I heard this the other day and it was a bummer, but I agreed with him. We have a beautiful, beautiful area, beautiful. For 3 to 4 months out of the year, it's an indoor state. Like, I can't even go out on a freaking run.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go hiking on some of these parks that we have too, because half of them are underwater. You got mosquitoes everywhere, and it's like I don't want to freaking trudge around that crap.
Well, actually, I used to go to Estero Bay Preserve. It's like a little loop. It's like 5-mile loop. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Bugs sucked before Ian. I have not been there since Ian because it changed the entire ecology of the area. Bugs that I never thought I'd see before. It completely shifted the area from a ecological perspective, which makes it almost impossible for me to want to go on a random day and go for a run out there. It's like not really gonna happen.
It's kind of funny, it's a little bit off topic, but it's really funny. So the Forest Country Club is full of iguanas now.
Really?
Yeah. And I think the Ian surge pushed them all into the forest because the surge came right over Fort Myers Beach, right into the forest, right up the kind of natural watershed area there. And a lot of people are complaining about iguanas in the forest now.
I love iguanas.
Yeah, I mean they're cool, but they're invasive.
What does that mean?
They're invasive. They're not supposed to be here.
But they look cool.
They burrow into docks and stuff. They cause a lot of damage. They eat a lot of hibiscus flowers. So if your hibiscus flowers are missing, they probably got eaten by an iguana. Because when we were selling the fish house, I was out there with the seller. He's like, all the flowers are gone. I said, yep, that's probably the iguana, right?
I love iguana stuff. I think they're cool.
Yeah, no, I think they're cool, but
if they're invasive,
they just, they don't really belong here, and
where are they
cause damage. I mean, probably people's pets and things like that.
That's how that happens.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, you got the little rainbow lizards down there too, and they're taking over. And they're not. There's something to do with like the mosquitoes, and now they spread like more mosquito-borne illnesses or something because they're not immune to the mosquitoes or something. I'm not a scientist. So,
that's Florida.
but that's what they're saying. They're saying like, they're not actually good for the environment either. But
we live in paradise.
Yeah.
They don't make paradise easy.
No.
So we got a New York kid in the room right now. Man can't even step foot outside half the time during any time of the year that isn't now.
I mean, a lot of people too. I mean, coconut palms are invasive species. Actually, they were never naturally here. A lot of people don't think that.
But I got my coconuts in my backyard.
Yeah, they're not natural to Florida.
You know what? The coconut water tastes like crap too. I think it's something to do with the soil. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they're from beaches and stuff like that, but we're not the natural area for coconut palms. And like, I think Sanibel's actually banned them now because of the coconuts. But I love coconut palms. I don't see how they're invasive, but I guess apparently they are.
Yeah, this whole invasive conversation doesn't really make sense. But what are we missing? What haven't we got into that you want to get into?
I think the invasive species stuff is good though. I think on that because they're all over the place. People see them all over the place right now.
I think our banter was kind of funny. Well, I enjoyed being on your show. What I care about, because you are the man on Fort Myers Beach, there's nobody else. I heard another guy's name, but I'll never trust somebody with two first names. But you're the man on Fort Myers Beach. You're going to be the person that enacts change within Fort Myers Beach. Conversations like this will push these projects that we're talking about forward. Business owners love the place. Residents love the place. Tourists love the place. The government loves the place. I'm not taking anything away, but we got to push something forward.
Oh yeah, I mean, trust me, Lee County would love to take over Fort Myers Beach. They love to take over Sanibel if their government and their funding falters, which I don't think it will. I think we're going to be fine. But Lee County would love to throw up a bunch of hotels on Fort Myers Beach all over the place.
You think we're close to that?
No, I don't think so. I think the town's doing a good job. And
how does the town make money?
Taxes. Tax base.
Oh, so there's a separate,
and they get like 6% of your property tax. Like you pay your property tax to Lee County. Fort Myers Beach only gets like 6% of that.
What's the Fort Myers Beach tax?
Well, like I just said, you pay the property tax. They get 6% of the property tax.
Oh, so there's not like a line item on your income?
Yeah, I mean it's on your taxes. You'll see it.
Your property tax.
Yeah, it's on your property taxes, and then everything else is
income.
Lee County tourism dollars, and they give a lot of money, and they own Estero Boulevard, they own the bridge, they own a couple parks, they operate the parks. There's been a pretty good relationship between the town of Fort Myers Beach and Lee County. They help each other out because they understand it's one of the biggest tourism places in Lee County. It is the biggest tourism place in Lee County because it's got the most density for hotels and all that kind of stuff too. So I mean, I think we're in good hands. We're in great hands with all of our local leaders. I think they've done an amazing job from the state government all the way down to the local municipalities. I think everyone's done a great job. You say what you want about them. Not everyone's not perfect, but for the circumstances, I don't think anybody would have handled all this stuff, any better.
I'm looking forward to the next time we get to sit down and see actual dang progress on Fort Myers Beach. Let's get to it.
Yeah, come on down to Fort Myers Beach. Just because there's some rubble in the background, don't go somewhere else. Come here. We need you here. We want you here, and we got enough business to support you. So come on down. When it gets cold, come on down.